Hello, EDUC 381 students. I am glad to produce this little video for you to help outline what the rest of our semester is going to look like. I have really had to consider what's going on in our schedule and what we're going to be able to accomplish in our last few weeks that we have together. And therefore, I have modified our schedule to really reflect the activities that we're going to do in relation to lesson planning and teaching some practice lessons for each other. So what I've done is I have condensed our last units into lesson planning unit and unit planning unit because they go really nicely together. So these are going to make up Module 5 and Module 6 on our calendar, Module 5 being lesson planning and Module 6 being unit planning. So what you'll see here in our new calendar is that we are going to spend 2 weeks on lesson planning. That's going to get us ready to teach our lessons, and you all will be teaching your lessons next week. I'm sorry, not next week, in the next unit. So you'll begin teaching your lessons on either November 9th or November 16th, depending on the day that you are assigned. Since we already have November 9th and November 16th blocked out in our schedule from even before, everybody will be required to attend class even if you're not teaching that day, because of course you need to be the audience for your other classmates to be able to teach their lessons. Before we get into teaching our full lessons though, we will have you guys work on your mini lessons, which we haven't gotten to yet. But what I've done is given you a full outline of what you can expect for your mini lesson that will be coming up here this week. So let's talk a little bit more about that mini lesson. What you'll see in this overview is that we're, building up to these big ideas that we've already been talking about in terms of classroom management, learning theories, and standards. These big ideas are always in the background of a teacher's mind, and students don't always necessarily see the activity that a teacher does when learning about these background issues. However, lesson planning is an issue that teachers have to address, and lesson planning does have a direct impact on what the students actually see and hear from the teacher. So that's where we're moving into lesson planning itself. So just as there are many factors that teachers must inspect before ever stepping foot in front of the students, there are also many factors that teachers must consider when planning each day's lessons. So we're going to start with a mini lesson. You guys are going to plan a mini lesson that describes and organizes an activity that can be completed by students independently. And what we're doing is modeling an online activity that teachers are giving to students in this new world of online learning. Your mini lesson will be due this Sunday by midnight. And what I've done for you here is given you some resources to look at. So the first thing is the full assignment description, which is where you will go to read about the assignment and also where you will submit the assignment. And then I've also included a little example that you can look at to help guide your thinking. So let's take a quick look at the mini lesson assignment. A mini lesson is going to be something that just covers a single activity within a class period. So if you were in a face-to-face class setting, this would take no more than 20 minutes. But since we're thinking about being in an online class setting, what you want to do is think through an activity that will take students around 30, that will take students around 30 to 40 minutes to complete. Also, really consider how you're presenting this activity to the students, because they would need to complete the activity independently and only check in with you at the very end with responses to an assessment that you might have them go through. Okay, so for your mini lesson, here's what you're going to do. You're going to introduce the topic / activity using a video. Everybody's going to go ahead and start out with a video for their mini lesson. Then you're going to have your students consider the topic in, some kind of a way. So the students might research your topic a little bit further with guiding questions that you have. Maybe you have students make predictions and write out a quick little essay about a prediction. Perhaps what students are going to do is solve a problem based on the information that you're giving them, and their solution to the problem could be the assessment. Or maybe your activity is just having them learn a new skill and then practice the new skill. Whatever you think is viable for your activity will be fine, as long as you are thoroughly describing the activity. That's the whole point of the lesson plan, is the thorough description. The last part of your mini lesson is going to be your assessment. So you're going to have students produce some kind of evidence that their learning has occurred. So you'll think through what they're going to turn into you as a product to show their learning. So to help you guys out with this, here are a few things that I have for you. I have a mini lesson template, which is the blank document you're going to need to use and fill out in order to complete your mini lesson. You'll see on here that it is a Word document, so you can go in and just start typing away in all of the little sections there. Additionally, what I've done is given you a sample mini lesson plan that you can use as a reference. So last time when I gave you a sample on standards, I used social studies, but what I did this time is use language arts as my sample. So if you were to take a look at my sample mini lesson, you'll see that it's that same template all filled out. I went ahead and color coded in green just so that I could see really easily what the lesson was, not necessarily the titles of each of these boxes. But what you'll see is that I have identified the topic or the theme / unit. I also identify the purpose that students are doing in this activity, my materials for the activity, the standards that come directly from the Unpacking the Standards assignment that we did, where you guys picked the unit that you'd be digging into, and for this, where you'll pick the activity. And then I get into the activity description. So I have a description of my opener, and I actually do include the link to my YouTube video that is my introduction. Next, I describe how the students will engage in the activity, and I describe how they're going to be using some reading questions for, my sample. And finally, I also describe the assessment, and in this case, students are going to submit responses to their reading questions as my assessment with a follow-up that is making predictions about the text. What you'll see is after the template, I actually get into my resource. So in this case, it is reading questions that go along with chapter 1 of this book, The Outsiders, for my language arts class. I make sure that I give instructions to the students. So after reading chapter 1, they will answer these questions, and then they will also answer these predictions. I also am just kind of claiming that students will submit this on our, whatever fake Canvas page that I might have for these language arts students. So that is my mini lesson. It includes the template, it includes the video, and it also includes the way that students are going to be assessed. So that's what you're going to need to upload for your mini lesson. You should be able to upload just the single document like what I showed here. It's the single document that includes the link to the video already embedded in the description. It's on the lesson plan template, and it also includes whatever your supplementary document is that students will be working on. Please refer to my sample here. When you watch my sample video, you might ask how I use the video to show my computer screen. And so right up here, I give you a little bit of a tutorial on Screencast-O-Matic, which is just the app that I use for screencasting. I'm going to go back really quickly to the rest of our overview so we can kind of see what else is coming up. So like I said, for this week, you're going to focus on your mini lesson. Next week, we're going to add in one extra level of thinking that teachers go through with lesson planning, which is all about levels of inquiry. So next week, you're going to be reviewing a PowerPoint about levels of inquiry and using that to actually enhance your mini lesson that you already had worked on from the previous week. The following 2 weeks are going to be largely focused on the planning and delivering of our lesson, our full lesson. So what we will do is look together at our secondary education lesson plan template. I'll give you a tutorial about it and also some examples so that you can see a high quality lesson using that template from other students in the program. After you guys teach your lesson on either Monday, November the 9th or Monday, November 16th, you will also give each other feedback. So we're going to use a discussion board in order to give each other feedback, and that will happen during those same weeks that you're participating in the lessons. So on a week that you're teaching a lesson, you don't have to give the feedback. You will still participate in the discussion board, but you just don't have to give feedback, obviously, to yourself. But the other week where you are not teaching is when you will provide feedback to your peers. Additionally, you're going to get feedback from a university supervisor who will observe your lesson as you teach it to your peers, and all of that feedback that you're going to receive from your peers and the university supervisor will end up in a reflection that you're going to submit. And of course, the whole point of the reflection is to think through improvements for your lesson plan. Then over Thanksgiving break and after Thanksgiving break, what we're going to do is continue your lesson planning to cover more days worth of your unit of study. So we're going to end up with at least 5 days worth of a unit of study. And at the same time, we're going to see how to organize your unit of study for electronic or web-based use using Google Sites. So of course, I'll make sure to give you a tutorial about all of that and give you full assignment descriptions for that. So you'll find the rest of our class is organized here in this module, which is called Module 5 and 6 Overview. This week, please just focus on your mini lesson. If you have any questions for me, please do let me know. And next week, we actually will be meeting face-to-face on Monday. Let me go back to this calendar real quick. On Monday, November 2nd, we're going to meet face-to-face for our Zoom meeting so that we can talk through what's coming up, the lesson plan template, and really make sure that your questions are answered to be successful with the rest of the semester. As always, if you guys have any questions for me, please let me know, and happy lesson planning.